What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my National Championship in-depth analysis review and how the Michigan Wolverines were able to claim a national championship, their first national title since 1997 and their first undisputed national title since 1948. This is the team that's going to be remembered in Ann Arbor for a long while, from J.J. McCarthy to Blake Corum, from that defense to Jim Harbaugh. This is a team that's going to live in the college football history books, especially because of all the things that happened with this program this year. But the preseason pick comes to fruition as the Michigan Wolverines win the national title. We'll break down how they did it here in a second, but before we do, hey, thanks for all the support and love in 2023. Let's continue to see support in 2024. Make sure you guys interact and therefore supporting the channel in any way you can. Subscribe, ring the bell, watch the video just as you're doing now, like, comment, share, do anything else you can do to help support the channel. It does mean a lot to me. And with all of that out of the way, let's break down what I saw in this national championship game between the Michigan Wolverines and the Washington Huskies. Coming into this game, someone was going to walk away as undefeated, undisputed national champs. The Wolverines entered this one as the favorite. I think the final line closed at it being 5.5. And early, it looked like Michigan was going to really take control here of this game. Now, when you take a look at this game, really all throughout, especially in that first quarter, Washington just couldn't stop the run at all. And it was not Blake Corum. I mean, Blake Corum was going, of course, but it was Donovan Edwards. I mean, only had 6 carries in this game, but had 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a point in this game where Donovan Edwards had 2 touches for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. And again, Donovan Edwards does not have the cutting ability of Blake Corum. I don't even think he has the vision to the extent that Blake Corum does, but the patient running, waiting for the hole to open up. He now, besides Derrick Henry's 50-yard run in 2016, has the 2 longest touchdown runs in national championship history, with a 41-yarder and a 46-yarder. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they came on back-to-back drives, or at least very close there to doing so. I actually can fact check that here right now. Yes, they did. They came on back-to-back drives. The 41-yarder came first, and then the 46-yarder came second. Again, just great patient running by Donovan Edwards. He had really, I don't want to say he's been dormant all year, but compared to what he was last year for the Michigan Wolverines, just definitely not as good of a season. He stepped up and played really well today. And you also, of course, got to give credit to Blake Corum. 21 carries, 134 yards, had 2 touchdowns of his own as well. It was the run game that got it done for Michigan in this game. J.J. McCarthy sure did what he needed to do. 10 of 18, 140 yards, 7.8 yards per completion. No touchdowns, no picks. He played a probably subpar game compared to what J.J. McCarthy has done in the past. Just didn't really need him a whole lot here in this game. Now, give credit to Washington because they did figure out this rush game. However, it is what killed Washington in the beginning of this game. They just couldn't defend the run at all, and they finally were able to stack the box towards the end of that first half and into the second half, where they stacked the box and they really were able to get into the backfield and be able to not only provide pressure on J.J. McCarthy, making him have some throws that probably just missed the receivers by a little bit. You missed the receiver by a lot. Things like that. But Washington was able to get pressure. They were able to force Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards for losses. And this was a Washington defense that had really stepped it up in the intensity level, much like what we saw they do in the game against Texas in the Sugar Bowl, right? That second half, that defense played very intense, but it couldn't keep up with the physicality of Michigan late. And we'll talk more about that when we get there. But, I mean, let's just go through this Michigan team first. So we've already talked about Blake Corum, already talked about, well, let's talk about Blake Corum a little bit more, shall we? I mean, the cutting ability of Blake Corum, the way that he's able to see the field and the vision that he has, he's probably going to end up going into the NFL draft and was one of the best running backs in college football over the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, Blake Corum has been absolutely phenomenal. And sure, while the yard total wasn't there, and maybe you could argue he wasn't as productive as he was last year, this is the guy that absolutely has led this team to a national title. Blake Corum has been phenomenal for the past 2 seasons, and he's been phenomenal all season long, was really, really good in this game. Now, again, Washington did start to figure him out, and this is the Michigan team that really slowed down offensively. But let's talk now about this Michigan defense, because they absolutely kept up the pressure all game long. Michael Penix, the reason that Michael Penix has not really been sacked a lot this year is, yes, the offensive line, for the most part, all year long has done their job. But Michael Penix, when he was not under pressure today, was pretty good. But when he was under pressure, Michigan was really able to force Penix to throw whatever he wanted. And the things that were easy for Washington all year long, Roma Dunze on single coverage, you get Westover on the seam, Polk and McMillan running their routes really, really well. The things that looked easy for Washington all season long were not easy in this game. And you could pick numerous amounts of plays where Michael Penix just didn't really read the field as well as he should have. There were times where Roma Dunze wide open, missed it. There were times where Jack Westover, again, on that seam route, on a post route from his tight end position, was open. Washington got a first down. Instead, the pressure of Michigan and the amount of hassle they were able to create in that backfield limited what Michael Penix was able to do. And late in that game, Michael Penix was starting to take some shots. He was hobbled up. Wouldn't surprise me if it came out here tomorrow. Again, I'm recording this after the game, but wouldn't surprise me if it came out tomorrow here that Michael Penix maybe broke a rib or he was battling through some injuries. Dylan Johnson, same thing. I think he battled through some pain today too. He finished only with 11 carries for 33 yards. I mean, it was Michael Penix that really tried to drive this offense, but again, you just couldn't really manufacture anything downfield. And yes, there were times where Michael Penix missed some throws, and there was the miscommunication where he had Roma Dunze, thought he was going to work a little bit more to the outside. Instead, Roma Dunze works inside, has to flip his body, locate the football, try to make a very tough play on it, and just couldn't come up with the ball. There were times where Washington also came away with field goals when they really should have come away with touchdowns. You go back to that very first drive, they got all the way down to the Michigan 8. And then again, a pass that we've seen Michael Penix complete numerous times. He misses Roma Dunze high. And that was what Michael Penix was doing in this game. He was missing receivers high, which is not really like Michael Penix. Just a very uncharacteristic performance here in the national championship game. Give credit, though, to Michigan's secondary, because I think they've, for the most part, again, there were times where the Michigan pass rush that, again, I have said previously didn't have game takeover ability. You could really say and point out why this Michigan pass rush took over this game, because it did. It hurried Michael Penix to make decisions. At times, it made Michael Penix have to throw off his back foot, made him feel uncomfortable in the pocket, made him try to force some balls that you really don't see Michael Penix throw, or I guess you really hadn't seen Michael Penix throw all season. Didn't really try to force anything in the coverage all season long. The Michigan defensive front really made him do that. They made him, I don't know if panic is the right word, but they made him make a faster decision than what Michael Penix wanted to do. And I guess now that I'm saying it, sure, you can say panic, but I don't think that's the right word to describe it. They just rush Michael Penix entirely. And again, you got down to the Michigan 8 on your first drive, came away with a field goal. You get down to the Michigan 47. Kalen DeBoer is aggressive. You decide to take a chance down 14. And again, a throw that we've seen Michael Penix make before. That was the play where Roma Dunze, wide open, has to flip his body, try to make a tough play on the ball. Miscommunication there between Penix and Roma Dunze, as you don't get that fourth down conversion. Very next drive there, you punt the ball. You get a touchdown right before the half, and you're going into the halftime locker room thinking, hey, this is pretty good, right? We're going to get the ball to start the second half. We have a little bit of momentum as our defense is finally figuring out this Michigan run game. Our offense was able to drive down the field with limited mistakes, and we're able to go score, right? The momentum was in Washington's favor, and then there was an interception. On the first play, Will Johnson picks it off, and from there, Michigan comes away with a field goal. Now, very next drive, Washington gets down to the Michigan 32-yard line, pass complete. Again, this is where the Michigan pass rush really hurried Michael Penix, because I believe he had Roma Dunze open on this play and just missed him, decided to dump it off underneath to Jack Westover for 4 yards. Grady Gross has to come on for another field goal, and that was it. That was the extent of Washington's offensive day. I think they headed into the fourth quarter feeling pretty confident that they could get this one done, because the Michigan offense just wasn't really able to do anything either. And then that 5-play, 71-yard drive, you had the huge play to Colston Loveland to open the drive, and from then on, you could pretty much sit and say, I mean, yeah, if Michigan scores here, this game is over. Michigan scores, Washington drives down the field. You could argue that pass interference, holding, offsetting penalties, replay, fourth down, you could argue that, look, probably the holding could have been a little lax. There were some missed holding calls on Michigan's side, but I'm not sitting here and say that the refs are the reason that Washington, A, wasn't given a shot here to win this game, and B, the reason that they lost the game entirely. Michael Penix had a very uncharacteristic performance. You gave a lot of credit to this Michigan secondary for, on the throws that Michael Penix made, Michigan was able to defend it fairly well. I thought, again, they did a little bit of a better job containing these Washington wide receivers than I thought they were going to do. I thought Michael Penix was going to be able to hit his shots, but just a very uncharacteristic performance from him. This is the Michigan pass rush and defensive front that was able to slow down Dylan Johnson and anyone else that Washington decided to run out of their own backfield, making Michael Penix throw and challenge this secondary, and then the pass rush got pressure to him. Exactly what you needed to have happen out of this Michigan defense. Now, when you also take a look at this Washington offense as well, a lot of pre-snap penalties and a lot of penalties that really cost them. Again, whether you agree with the call or not, that holding penalty on 4th and 14 is the whole reason we're probably not talking about this being a one-score game, and instead Michigan wins 34-13 instead of it being 27-20 or something along those lines, because you had the play where the late reaction on the offensive line for Washington, you kind of have to tug at the jersey, the guy falls, the flag gets thrown, and it is what it is. Very next play, you have to replay 4th down because of the offsetting penalties. Mikey Sainer still picks it off and takes it at 81 yards. Michigan punches it in 2 plays later. But Washington really beat themselves. Again, missed opportunities from Michael Penix all game long. Again, you have to give a lot of credit to the Michigan pass rush in that, but still, even when Penix had time, he was missing guys, missing throws. The play where Roma Dunze was wide open, there was miscommunication on that play. A lot of pre-snap penalties, I believe 3 or 4 false starts, and then a couple of really big holding calls there down the stretch that, again, there was one that erased a huge play for Washington, and then there was the one that erased the pass interference that was really obvious. I mean, Will Johnson, obviously, that was going to get called for pass interference, but the holding call killed it. So this was a Washington team that when they look back here and watch this game and they unfortunately relive this game here in their minds, they're going to think, man, if only we didn't beat themselves, or if only we didn't beat ourselves, what could have been? But with all of that being said, going back to the Michigan Wolverines side of things, right? This is the team that I picked to win the national championship in the preseason for a reason. This team was all in this year. They had so many people return to this team. McCarthy, I believe, was already coming back, but Blake Corum decided to come back. You had a ton of defensive playmakers decide to come back on this team as well. You only added guys through the transfer portal. I thought this was one of the more underrated wide receiver rooms in the entire country. And on top of all of that, you have guys come back, say we have unfinished business, and they did, losing the way that they did the TCU last year in a game that, let's be honest, looking how that Georgia game went, probably shouldn't have lost anyway, but again, that's just how the cookie crumbles. But when you take a look back at everything this Michigan program had to deal with, the NCAA putting the ban on Jim Harbaugh, you had the whole sign stealing debacle, you had everyone say, look at the offense after Connor Stallions is gone, it has dropped off, it has disappeared in a sense, it's just not where it was. Connor Stallions was a big factor to this. Now, again, you can take what you will from the stats. I'm just saying this is what people have said. Look at how big of an impact Connor Stallions has had. And now with Jim Harbaugh gone with the first, I believe it was 4 games, and then, or first 3 games. My apologies, first 3 games, and then the last 3 games of the season as well, with Jim Harbaugh not being able to be on the sidelines, with Sharon Moore taking over, this team was fantastic. With everything that was being said about this program, sure, the offense did not play super well down the stretch of the season, but the defense had really stepped up. This is an offense, especially with Blake Corum and J.J. McCarthy, that stepped up when they needed to, and in these playoff games, the defensive intensity, the physicality of this team, the running and cutting ability of Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards showing up in this championship game, the adversity and everything this team has fought through over not just this season, but the past couple of seasons as well. You finally get over the Ohio State hump in 2021. You win back-to-back-to-back Big Ten championships, and over the past 2 seasons, you probably just end up with a mismatch against the Georgia Bulldogs in 2021, and you get ran. And then that game against TCU, just a Cinderella of Cinderella performances. Michigan ends up beating themselves at times in that game as well, and you end up losing that one. To win the way that this team did against the Alabama Crimson Tide, and then to win the way that they did tonight against the Washington Huskies, I know that a lot of people out there that have been on this channel for a long time and maybe seeing the colors on my sweatshirt now know who I root for. But I'm saying this as a Buckeye fan through and through. It's impossible to not feel happy for what Jim Harbaugh and this Michigan Wolverines team has done. This is the team that's going to be remembered, I don't think only in Ann Arbor. Obviously, it'll be remembered in Ann Arbor, but I think it's going to be remembered for a quite long time with the adversity and everything this team faced. The people are going to say what they want to say. Well, the cheating happened and all of this and that, and Harbaugh had all these recruiting violations and whatever. I'm not saying any of those things. Congratulations. I don't know if I've said that yet. I hope I said it at the beginning of the video, but if not, I mean, look, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines, to J.J. McCarthy, to Blake Corum, to Mikey Sainristil, to that entire coaching staff, to Sharon Moore, to everybody involved with this Michigan program, and even the Michigan fan base. You guys were one hell of a team this year. And again, there was a reason why I picked this team to win the national title, and every single reason why I picked them to win the national title you saw tonight. Maybe except J.J. McCarthy having a game that I definitely thought he could have played a little bit better in, but Blake Corum, the physicality, the defense, everything that I had banked on Michigan playing like this year and why I picked them to win the national title is the reason that Michigan won the national title tonight. And this team was fantastic all year long, and you can make the case on sure they didn't have that non-conference Power 5 boosting game to boost their resume. And sure, at times down the stretch this year, again, they looked shaky. And you, again, stock up what you want with all the accusations and with Connor Stalions leaving, the stat drop-off, make whatever conclusion you want to out of that. But the way that this team fought and competed, not only for Jim Harbaugh, but for Zach Zinter and a lot of these other players, how they fought for each other and how they fought for this fan base that had been in turmoil for so long. You go through a whole bunch of coaches. You can't find a way to beat Ohio State, and even Jim Harbaugh could not find a way to beat Ohio State for his first 4 years. There were a lot of people around this program that wanted him fired, but the athletic department stayed patient because this is what Michigan was truly capable of. The national title aspect, and just the national championship energy that feels like it surrounded this team all year long was through and through. I think them getting the number 1 seed at the end is very fitting because I do think that when you look back across the entire season, this was the best team in college football this year. Them winning the national championship was no mystery, and it was no surprise. Michigan was a team that as soon as they beat, this is a Michigan team that, sorry, had to think about my thoughts, but this is a Michigan team that the way that they played against Bama, you knew that they were not going to let this game go tonight, especially with the way that they played in that second half, especially late in that second half. Now, to a lot of the players on Michigan, probably was their last rodeo with this team. J.J. McCarthy all but confirmed that in his post-game interview. He said it was fun to do this one last time and to win a national championship or something like that. Yes, he still can come back, but I think that tells you right there he's probably gone. Blake Corum probably gone. Who knows what Donovan Edwards is going to do? A lot of that offensive line is going to be gone next year, as well as a lot of those defensive studs that really balled out for Michigan this year. So for everybody that was involved with this Michigan program, that it was their last rodeo. It may have even been the last game for Jim Harbaugh. We'll wait to see on that, as well as there are numerous jobs in the NFL that could definitely take him. But what a job this Michigan team did from start to finish this season. And moving into the 12-team playoff next year, I mean, it's going to be really, really fun. But again, a final congratulations to these 4 teams on screen for making it into the college football playoff. An unprecedented season with a bunch of turmoil and chaos towards the end. Congratulations to the Washington Huskies, Michael Penix, Kalen DeBoer, that wide receiver group, and that defense that continued to find ways to win games that unfortunately could not find a way to win them this game today. And congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines. You are the undisputed college football national champions of 2024. Into 2024-2025 we go. Again, the word that we don't really like to use around the college football world, as Josh Pate will tell you, the offseason. More so the spring and summer of college football has started. Enjoy this one if you are a Wolverines fan. If you are a Washington fan, there's still a lot to look forward to next year. I mean, you're joining the Big Ten. You do have a chance to get your revenge. You are hosting Michigan in a Big Ten conference game, joining a new conference, the 12-team playoff next year. Whole bunch of changes coming, and I really can't wait for the next college football season to start. But what a way to put a bow on 2023-2024. Again, your final score from Houston, from NRG Stadium, 34-13, the Michigan Wolverines, undefeated, undisputed national champs in 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and for all of my videos during the college football season. I got a lot of stuff planned for the spring and summer. I may take a little break or I may jump into content. Not too sure what I want to do yet, but I appreciate all of you that will be sticking around for the rest of the winter, the spring, and the summer months. Hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.